And welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. You are watching Midnight. See if I get my fingers right. Right there at the Oasis. And if you can tell, we didn't put our parentheses on the left hand side, but you get the deal. Midnight at the Oasis. With yours truly, Anthony Parker Alexander. Hope you had a good day. Pray you had a good night. So you watch the show. We've been doing this a couple times. We're trying to come on every night so we can do this midnight at the Oasis. Tell your friends, hit the share, hit the like, hit the subscribe button. It's under an umbrella of Keeping It Honest with yours truly, Anthony Parker Alexander. That's me. We try to do things with Parker Twist. We try to get the left side, try to get the right side. And at the end of the day and end of the show, we hope you decide. You may not like what you hear. And I sound like Kamala Harris because I say this literally every show, but I try to switch it up a little bit. You may not like what you hear or see, but hopefully you know that we've given you the truth. And this one today is one where it's going to gauge you to see if it's something that you like. But I am giving you the truth. You want to comment? Telephone number. Leave me a voice message. Text me 216 excuse me 702 3718 216 702 3718. You can email me. It's parkerman2011 at gmail.com. Parkerman2011 at gmail.com. As we do with every show, which most shows don't do, probably 99.9%, let's pray. Dear God, we thank you for us being here another day, to breathe another day. We pray that we get blessings, and even if we don't get blessings today, we pray that we will get them tomorrow. But the blessings really are that we are alive to experience the blessings that are either here or that are to come. Amen. So you tell me another show that isn't a spiritual, religious show that does this. We talk news, we talk politics, we talk entertainment. We pretty much give you a synopsis of what happened today and what you're going to learn tomorrow. So today is, or tonight's, another interesting show. And I can't wait for this one because we're evolving. We're going to read some of the comments that, we've had about our show. And you'll be interested in what they're about. There's a lot of comments, but we're not going to read a lot. We're only going to read a couple. Tonight, today, wherever you're seeing this, hit the like and share button, the replay. Make sure notifications so you know when we're coming on. But we're always going to be here at this time. As I grow, you grow, we are a family like Sister Sledge. And you can also go to my Patreon page. That's kind of like a PBS fundraising page. You go to patreon.com, you type in Keeping It Honest, and then we have 3 tiers. And on those 3 tiers, you can decide what you want to contribute to. It's amazing. It's monthly. It's however you want to do it. It's annually, however you want to do it. We've been growing because of you. And as I said, subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. It's all because of you that we're doing this. And we hope that you enjoy it and you learn something from it. So, one of the biggest things is, well, the Olympics just ended, and the next one's going to be 2028 in, I think, Los Angeles, if I'm correct. So, it's coming to America, and it should be very entertaining. They're already getting the basketball players, which ones are going to be playing. There's one lady in the WNBA. If she plays, I can't remember her name. She's going to be 46 years old. Now, will she be the oldest person to play? Maybe beside LeBron. That gives LeBron another 6 years, something like that. Who knows? WNBA is different. We need to support it. How many of you guys watched the Olympics? My favorite was the figure skating. I kind of liked that. Um, I liked the track and field. I liked the swimming. And I like the gymnastics. Those are some of my favorites. I didn't get a chance to watch it a lot because I've been busy. Um, but I thought it was good. So let me know if you watched it and everything. The election, man, this is crazy, crazy, crazy. Tonight, we are going to look at the status of this election. Donald Trump, Kamala Harris. Man, I can never get that name right, too. Is it neck and neck? Is it better now that Joe Biden has dropped out, that is closer? Why hasn't Kamala done any news stories? Why hadn't she been interviewed? I'm so tired of this weak media now that I'm in streaming. They've had opportunities. She's been doing this now for almost 3 weeks. She's been the person that is running for president. Only about a week ago did the Democratic Party anoint her. And almost a week from now, or whatever, they're going to have the convention. So she's going to get a bump. But Donald Trump almost got assassinated. So you think because he got assassinated, his ratings would be way up there. It was for only a couple days. Because after he got shot, he picked his running mate. Then he had his convention, and he's about as high as he could get. He can't get any higher. And then after that, Democrats, Joe Biden, gets COVID like that. Next day, he's out. They're scrambling to see who's going to be taking his place because Harris is going to be the VP. But then they had to talk and say, okay, Harris, I think we want you because we don't want to lose this money for the Democratic Party. So let's back you. Obama didn't wait. Well, he didn't do anything till the last minute. And I think he wanted to show his power. Does he have power? Who knows? So now everybody's coordinating her. The media isn't talking bad about her. She hasn't done anything as far as interviews saying, I may have an interview at the end of the month. How are you going to tell somebody when you're going to have an interview? And then the media aren't asking her questions. Tim, the VP, he's kind of out there. He's like a Republican in Democratic clothing. His war record has been very questionable. The media isn't asking him questions. Then he said, oh, geez, I overspoke. How are you going to overspeak? If I say I was on CNN, no, I wasn't. I was on the button to turn to CNN. I turned to that station, so technically I was on CNN. But I didn't go deeper into that. So for years I've been saying I'm on CNN when really I wasn't. So if him saying he got one title in the military and he really didn't get that, oh geez, I forgot. And when people asked him, he didn't correct it. So we're gonna do an interesting story. We're gonna do a piggyback with Megyn Kelly. I know I talk about how much I love her journalistic stances. When she gets opinionated, that's a little bit too much, but her journalistic standards, I really like. And if you don't like her, let me know. But there's a story about Tim, the VP, and, his military record. And it's very questionable. And why hasn't the media questioned him on it? Why have the media let them slide? Just like, think about this. They let Biden slide for I don't know how many years when they knew Biden was feeling sick. You have to see my one story I did about this biographer. His name is David Girl. And he did a book about President Obama. You have to see my story on that. It may upset a lot of people, but it's the truth. And it's about the real Obama. Because the real Obama is out there now in the cut because some of the people that worked with Obama are working with Miss Harris. And they're anointing her too quick. We don't really know a lot about her. She shouldn't have been in the White House until we really vexed her. But when you're president, you can pick anybody. And now she's running for president. So we're trying to get to know her. She flip-flops, okay? She says there's not going to be any taxes on hospitality. But Donald Trump said that a couple months ago. Other things that she has said a couple years ago, she's flip-flopped, but the media is not asking her those questions. And the more I hear and see about it, the more I'm distrusting the mainstream media. So when you watch streaming, it's not just people ranting. Make sure they got some credibility behind their background. If they're not just saying things, if they've got a journalistic background, they're journalists and not just opinionated people with a media outlet to have on. I mean, they're good, and you can watch what you want. But even stuff that I give you, use us as footnotes and investigate it more yourself. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to piggyback off of this story dealing with the vice president, not Kamala, or vice president candidate Tim. And to be fair, we're going to look at his record today. And coming up, we're going to look at J.D. Vance's military record. Because Tim's been taking a lot of flack. If it's rightfully so, we're going to find out. We're going to give you information on that. And then you can check it out yourself. And then we're also going to see how close this race is. Some people say it's close. Some people say it's not close. Stay tuned for that. And I'm going to read you now one of my comments that I got as far as one of the shows and clips that I've shown. And I do 5-second clips as short as 5 seconds, well, probably 3 seconds, and as long as 3 hours. Whew, great transition. We do some live shows. We do some tape shows. And we communicate with people off the threads. People, they comment on the videos. So watch the videos. Try to watch the long videos. You see the short ones. Watch the long videos too. Let me know what you think. And then also, if you'd like to be a guest on the show, you got something to say, get in contact with me. And I'll have you as a guest on my show, and we can talk all issues that you want. I think it'll be kind of fun, so stay tuned for that. So this message right here, I'm going to read this. Refugees as weapons is a term used to describe a hostile government organization or threatening to organize a sudden influence of, refu- of refugees into their country or another country or political entity with the intent of causing political disturbances in that entity. Well, that's interesting. The responsible company or the responsible country, or sometimes a non state actor, usually seeks to extract concessions from the targeted country and achieve some political, military, and or economic objective. Now, are we refugees? Is there another country that you would consider that? Let me know. And this was from Sunline Blessed. Sunline Blessed. And this was a video, Watch Out Donald. Watch Out Donald. So, if you're interested in that, type it and you can see what we're talking about. And we're going to read a couple more as the show goes on. So again, you can text me, you can email me, contact me, let me know what you like. And the things that you don't think people would talk about, we will talk about. We're going to be piggybacking off of this. And this is a very interesting conversation. This is the background of the vice presidential candidate. We call him Uncle Tim because he's taking flack. He's also coach. He's also an educator, but he's taking flack, as he should be, by the American public, but he doesn't seem to be taking flack from the media. As we discuss, what is his military background? And Megan's going to get real in depth in this, which I love, so we can talk about it, and we will talk about it as she is talking about it.
Minnesota governor and Democratic vice presidential pick Tim Walz skipping the Sunday show circuit this weekend. I mean, he could have easily responded to all of the allegations that he abandoned his fellow soldiers ahead of their deployment to Iraq. You have to wonder, why didn't he?
So, yes, he had a chance to go on the Sunday shows because he's been taking flack. And the Sunday shows are the ones you got ABC News with George Stephanopoulos. You've got Meet the Press, but they were on vacation. And you got the other shows on the other cable networks. So he could have picked any show just to quell this because people are talking about this crazy. And his platoon is saying that he deserted them. So this would give him a great opportunity to get it out there to change the narrative before this narrative continues by the time J.D. Vance debates him, which we don't know when this will be.
Why wouldn't he? Such serious allegations, and any network would have given him ample time to fire back. At the same time, though, we're getting new examples of the governor misleading Americans about his military record.
A lot of people coming out the woodwork.
First, Politico noticed on Thursday that the Harris-Walz campaign quietly changed Governor Walz's bio on its campaign website. People, he is still doing this. As of last week, he was calling himself a higher rank than he actually earned.
And that's the thing. If you're a military person, get with me. Let me know. I will have a military person on, and we can talk about this Tim Weiss, situation. If he's saying he's had a military title higher than what he has had, does that really tick you guys off? I know it would tick me off if he's saying that he was like this high, and then technically he was really this high, and especially if I worked around him.
The governor's bio was referring to him as a retired command sergeant major. But as our audience knows, and the Minnesota National Guard has confirmed, Governor Walz did not complete the necessary training to retire as a command sergeant major.
And that's a big deal. So if he didn't complete it and he's saying he's a retired sergeant major, really guys in the military, whether you want to do Republican or Democrat, how does that make you feel if this guy is omitting it, omitting, meaning not putting it in there, and technically lying?
It would have required an additional 2 years of service and training, which he did not complete. He retired at a lower rank, that of Master Sergeant. Some veterans say this is an example of stolen valor. He is claiming he achieved a rank that he didn't earn.
And then how did he get that high too? He went up to governor. And if he's been governor for 2 terms, why hasn't anybody said nothing over the 2 terms, at least? And some people say they tried saying it to the media, but the media did not want to print it. And I've been told, too, that when you want access to somebody and you're asking them certain questions that they don't like, they will make deals, or their people will. They'll say, look, if you want to continue to interview this person, then do not put out that story. And maybe that was told to some of the media in his state. Who knows? But how did it get that far without anybody really pressing it? And I can tell you, too, because I ran for Congress, so I kind of know. Well, I really don't know that total high scrutiny. But again, I ran for Congress, and people, they do vet you, or they try to plant stuff. I can just tell you, I'm just keeping it honest. Yours truly, Anthony Parker, on midnight at the Oasis.
Others did. Their sacrifice gets diminished by him trying to claim he did it too. And the Harris campaign, of course, trying to sweep the change under the rug, not owning up to their silent switcheroo. Meantime, the Washington Free Beacon, Eliana's outlet, unearthed a video from 2007. In this video, you are going to hear Nancy Pelosi thank Tim Walz. Again, this is 2007, right after he became a member of Congress, for his service on the battlefield, and the then congressman fails to correct her.
So again, he has a chance back then to correct what she said. Oh, no, I'm not retired commander. No. Let's listen, see what he did.
He will speak for himself, but I want him to know how much we all appreciate his service to our country, whether it's in the classroom or on the battlefield.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you to the leadership here.
And he wasn't even on the battlefield. Wow. Passage of that, and he never fought.
Why didn't he correct her the way Eliana just did when Emily said she was working class from Minneapolis? It's so easy. And honestly, having been at Fox News for so many years, you see veterans do this all the time. If you misstate or especially inflate their rank, the level of service, and anything having to do with their combat experience, they will correct you.
Now you heard that. Okay, so you already knew that he wasn't retired, okay, in that capacity because it was him. And he should also know if he's running for office that people are going to vet him and correct it. But he had a chance to correct that in front of Nancy, and he didn't.
Out of deference and respect for the people who actually held those titles and did that kind of work. not Tim Walz. And she even said he can speak for himself. But when he did, he didn't correct it. C-SPAN, the network that aired that press conference, also labeled Mr. Walz as an Afghanistan war veteran on its chyron, or lower third. To be clear, Mr. Walz never served in combat in Afghanistan or in Afghanistan at all.
So as you look at this film, like I'm looking, it says Representative Tim Walz, D, Minnesota, 1st District, Afghanistan war veteran. The key word was he never, and see that arrow pointing? He never went to Afghanistan at all. So is that C-SPAN's fault? Is it the government's fault? Because if the government is seeing this guy, all they got to do is check and say he's lying. So, like I said, conspiracy theories, there's always a conspiracy to a conspiracy theory when there's a theory that is a conspiracy. You try saying that.
He served in Italy in support of Operation Enduring Freedom, which was the fighting in Afghanistan. He never served in Operation Enduring Freedom. There is a difference. Now, maybe Mr. Walz didn't hear Ms. Pelosi's remark. It's likely he never saw that chyron, but it's part of a pattern with this guy. And here we have yet another example where Mr. Walz clearly heard his service being misrepresented and did nothing in real time to correct the record.
So now is this him just not hearing stuff? Is that him just taking advantage of it? Is there an excuse? That's why we're playing this. You listen to this in Tim Weiss's own words. Dude, what position did you have in the military before you left?
The clip we're about to play is from 2016. It's an interview with C-SPAN. The host says Mr. Walz retired as a command sergeant major. No, he didn't.
Again, who is putting this on him? Is he telling people this? The media, the military? Who?
Then the host goes on to say that he served with his battalion in Afghanistan. First, Mr. Walz just nods his head in agreement. Watch.
But he didn't serve anywhere with them.
Congressman Tim Walz, also a member of the Armed Services Committee and Veterans Affairs, Democrat of Minnesota, highest ranking enlisted soldier ever to serve in Congress.
So is he the highest still listed member? So if he's getting that acclaim, the highest member ever to be in Congress from the military, that's a big deal. Nobody has caught this. He nods his head.
Enlisted in the Army National Guard at 17 and retired 24 years later as Command Sergeant Major and served with his battalion at Operating Enduring Freedom in Afghanistan.
Wow. All those last couple words, untruths.
And I read that.
In Afghanistan, he shakes his head yes. That was the time to do it, sir. We on this show actually do care about completeness and fairness, so we went back to make sure Mr. Walz did not correct the record after that particular clip ends.
And that's why we like watching Megyn Kelly and talking while she's talking, because her team, I don't know if she does it, is really on. I mean, when they find a story, they sniff it out to the truth.
He did nothing about the misstating of his higher rank. We looked at the full interview. 7 minutes into the discussion, Mr. Walz slides in the truth about Afghanistan, but does not say to the host, I want to correct the record and make it perfectly clear. He just offers up this.
My guard unit backfilled to Europe to provide the security mission as the 173rd moved to Afghanistan. They rotated back. Our guard unit moves home. Many of those same soldiers deployed for 22 months right after that.
But where was he? Because he was the supervisor, the commander, the sergeant. At least he's telling the truth. His battalion did, but he had left his battalion, so it wasn't his battalion anymore. But he did tell the truth about what his battalion did.
He does this all the time. It feels like a verbal sleight of hand where he wants, it's very clear, the listener to believe that he was in Afghanistan, that he was there, that he was part of Enduring Freedom, and he wasn't. And by the way, what's so wrong with saying, just to correct the record, I actually didn't serve in Afghanistan? Why wouldn't you do that out of respect for those who did?
Because I guess it may look bad and it looks good for him in his political position?
Because you want people to believe it's true. On Thursday, Vice President Harris was asked to respond to this controversy over her running mate. Did she take it head on? Answer directly to the cameras that Mr. Wallace's fellow soldiers are wrong about him? Yeah, no. She gave the most non-answer one can give, just praising anyone who has ever served anywhere.
And this is why you don't like certain politicians, okay? One of the reasons I wanted to run is because I wanted to make a difference in my community. And I'm about as grassroots as you can be, sometimes with the grass, but always with the roots. Yet I see politicians that I deal with them every day, literally. And a lot of them I don't like. Just overall politicians, because I say as a politician, you could do one extra thing and make a difference. But when you're doing that extra thing and you're lying, the only difference that's making is to yourself. And the opposite difference is people won't like you even more. So Kamala, when she was asked about him, this is what she said.
Some of the criticism has been about your vice presidential pick and his leading the National Guard at 24 years. Vance said that he deserted his own troops or his own colleagues. What's your take on that?
Listen, I praise anyone who has presented themselves to serve our country.
Okay, but then you were vetting him, or your people were, and did you guys say, well, you know what, Tim, look, so you retired in this position? And what did he say? Yes, I did. Or, well, no, I didn't retire in that position. I retired underneath that. So when you fill out resumes and applications and everything, not resumes, applications, if you lie, you don't get that job. So what kind of vetting did they really do when they got this guy? Are they going to find out more lies on this guy because they really didn't do vetting? They only vetted for like a couple of days right before he became the vice presidential candidate. Are we going to find out more things? And even with Kamala, are we going to find things about her too? You can't even say we picked him in these positions.
The ultra rich, they're getting ultra richer, but what happens to us, the average, even the above average American?
And one thing I hate is commercials. So that commercial's over with. How do you feel about him? How do you feel about Miss Harris? Now, since they got all this pressure, have they sat and talked with this guy and said, dude, you got to correct it. You got to go on these Sunday shows. But yet they evaded it and they're making it worse.
First of all, that question was so bad. Why are these people so bad at it? You ask a pointed question. You know, after 24 years, he left the National Guard. What? That's not the question. The question is, your vice presidential running mate is being accused by his fellow unit members of abandoning them because the unit was told they were deploying to Iraq, and instead of going, he quit. He was the one who trained them, and they felt he cut and ran. What's your response to those men?
That's the question. Boom, then you drop the mic. But then that's also, if you're lying for him, you already know you've lied for Biden and everybody else has lied for Biden. Oh, yeah, he's healthy, he's this and that. Weeks later, boom, he drops out. Then you get a VP and he's getting all these allegations. And you're like, I support him in whatever he says because he's in the military. How dare you even talk about, well, this is what we're going to do for military families. You can do that just because you want to get the votes. But really, isn't that hypocritical? Do you really care about military families?
Okay, there. I wrote it for you. Good luck, press corps, on the next 71-second interview time with her. Back with me now, the EJs. God, it's so frustrating to watch them attempt the journalism and fail at the journalism. But
so on this section, you're going to learn a little bit more about the VP candidate's background, really with the military service, and when did he get out? What year was he eligible? If you look at the time frame of it. So I want you to sit back and listen to Tim Weiss, what he's never told the American people that we're talking about now. Midnight at the Oasis. Yours truly, Anthony Parker. You want to contact me? Text me voicemail 216-702 3718 212, sorry, 216 702 3718. Email address is parkerman 2011 at gmail.com, parkerman 2011 at gmail.com. Go to my Patreon page, contribute, hit the like, the share, and the subscribe button. Tim, who the heck are you? Say it ain't so, Tim. Say it ain't so.
Eliana, there's going to be more clips. This is a pattern with this guy. And every day now since he got named, we have found several. He, as I said in the intro, always makes the mistake in the same direction to make himself sound more glorified than he really was.
Man, Megan, I got to say that was a real flashback hearing you formulate a question to our debate prep where you'd be like, no, not sharp enough, flabby. But look, with the walls thing, you're absolutely right. And there are several issues. I think it can be confusing because there's so many different smaller issues within the bucket of the way he's talked about his service. So there are 4 issues here. One is,
and I like how she breaks this down. So I need you guys to listen. Okay? This is hard stuff to listen to because it has to be the truth in this. If it's not, then they put this together in a way to make him look bad. But I don't believe so because I feel this is the truth that you're about to hear.
Is the matter of his title, where it's clear that he attained the title but didn't stay in long enough to keep it, and the campaign
He was a
had
provisional.
To go
He had the provisional use of
it
the
was
title.
Contingent upon his staying in the service, taking the required courses. So the campaign had to do cleanup duty on its website.
So I guess on his website too, which is crazy. So if he'd have stayed in, he would have continued to have that title. But it was conditional, meaning if you don't stay in, you don't get the title. If you stay in, you get the title. So I guess they had it on the website, but how did it get far to the website over the years?
For the bio it had for him. The second is to his reference of the arms he had used in war, though he never saw combat. And the campaign, again, said over the weekend, NBC News wrote an article about this, that he had spoken in error. So on 2 things, they've done cleanup duty.
So how do you speak in error on something that is your life? Revisionist. Well, you spoke on error because probably you got caught. Oh yeah, I was NBC News weekend anchor after Brian Williams. You didn't really see me on there because Brian Williams took up all the glory. Oh, I speak in error. I was watching NBC News with Brian Williams. I wasn't ever on with him or after him. I was watching. So that was an error. Okay? Revisionist history, especially when you get caught.
The other 2 things are, did he serve in Operation Enduring Freedom, or did he serve in support of Operation Enduring Freedom? He's obviously let folks say that he served in Afghanistan when he served in a support role in Italy. That seems to me less significant of an issue, though these matters have been controversies and issues throughout every campaign he's run.
So yeah, of course it'd be a big deal if you say you served. Serving and supporting is different because if you're serving, that means you're going to war zones and possibly dying or killing people or trying to survive. So you think about the people that really went over there and served. They served. He was only supporting. So to me, overall, these 3 points are slaps in the faces of his military group and the military as a whole.
For office since 2006. And the 4th, which I think is the most significant of these, Megan, has to deal with the timing of his retirement from the National Guard.
And this will determine too how he got paid too, because if he retired 2 years later or 4 years later, is that a different pay range? But you're saying you're retired, and again, it's that position. What did you retire of?
In 2006, where he filed to run for Congress in February. His unit got a warning that they were likely to be called up in March.
So February, he was about to leave. March, he got the call that they were going to be called up.
He said at the time that if called up to serve in Iraq, he had a duty to do so.
So he said he would go to Iraq, but does that mean he wasn't going to run for office?
He retired in May.
He retired in May, boom, to start running for Congress.
And his unit was called up in July.
So he retired in May. His unit was called up in July, May, June, July. So it seems like he retired 2 months before they were called. But he did say that he was going to go with them. But maybe he said, okay, well, you know what? I guess I'm retired. Maybe won't get called.
So he is on the record after his unit was notified that it was likely to be called up, saying that if called, he had a duty to serve, and he went on to retire and run for Congress.
Okay, so let me straighten that up. So they said, likely you're going to be called up. He said, okay, well, if I'm called up, I'll serve. But he's like, nah, I'm gonna retire, run for Congress, and then they were called up. So, I don't know. What do you think about that? Was he wrong?
And I think thinking about these things sort of in those 4 categories makes them a bit more easy to understand. But this is not a new controversy for Tim Walz. He's clearly played fast and loose with his title and the matter of his record, allowed people to witchcast onto him what they want to be true and what probably he wants to be true, and has taken no pains at any point to correct the record. And look, national politics is different from state politics.
National politics is different from state. As you keep growing, people vet you out a little bit more. So starting off at city council to starting out to Congress, interesting kind of vetting. I can tell you. And one day we'll talk more about it. But it looks like all he had to do was say, you know what? I said I'd go with my group. If they were called, I'd go, but then I changed my mind. And as soon as I changed my mind, we were called up, but I had already retired. So that's the story. And I'm not at that position. I'm really at this one. Simple.
He's getting more scrutiny this time around. And already twice the campaign has had to go out and do cleanup on this, despite not having sat for a real interview or taking hard questions on this.
Those facts that you just stated are indisputable by both sides. In a motion for summary judgment in a court of law, you could put those down as undisputed facts. That timeline you just laid out. He filed an intention to run for Congress in February. In March, a preliminary notice of deployment went out. Thereafter, he said, if my unit is deployed, I have a responsibility to go. And then he quit. And then they got the official deployment notice. That happened.
So you look at it that way, you could say, okay, a lot of people say, I'm not going to run for office. Then they run. Or Joe Biden said, I'm going to stay in office, and he quit. Okay, he said that, if called, I'll be there. But he decided not to be there. But because he is taking the gratitudes of this position, if he had stayed and not say anything about it, he left. And he left without this title that's being put out there. So it's all small. And I guess he's trying to make him. And that you're lying to continue to be in office.
However, there's a soldier who served in the role he claimed he had, overseeing a different unit, but in Minnesota, same thing, like they were all together, who says, we were told we were going to Iraq before he even filed the notice to run for Congress in February. We knew in the fall of 2004 we were going to get sent.
So that switches it even more. So if they knew, maybe they knew too, and I guess maybe all squadrons, if they're close, might know, if they're being told at the end of 2004 that they're going to be possibly sent and deployed, then this was a little bit before he was going to retire. So if they knew that early, and then he says in February or whatever that I'm going to go if they're deployed, again, maybe he just changed his mind, but he's putting a time level and stretching it closer to when he was about to run for Congress, when it seems like they knew at least 4 or 5 months before he even thought about running for Congress.
It doesn't happen that it's just suddenly like, hey, you're going, and then you go. There's a long lead up time for these soldiers. And this guy, a former Minnesota National Guard Command Sergeant Major, Doug Julien, went on CNN and said, we were told in the fall of 2004. Listen.
People don't really understand the concept or the chronological events as they occurred. And I'm going to kind of start back in the fall of 2004 is what we received, my commander and myself of the 1st Brigade, 34th Infantry Division Brigade Combat Team, what's called a notification of sourcing, which is a NOS. We were informed that we would be alerted to go to Iraq within the next upcoming year or time period out there. Start preparing your team. From that going forward, we met with one of the 125 Field Artillery, introduced ourselves, talked to them, and give them a heads up. This is what's happening. We don't know the full particulars, but we will get to it.
The 125 is Wallace's unit, Emily. That's on the record testimony.
Wow. So he's saying they did get it in enough time.
From this fellow Command Sergeant Major saying, we were told before he filed that notice to run to Congress, we were getting sent to Iraq. That just puts the lie directly to everything Tim Walz has told us. And that's a way to further sharpen your question even more.
So when is Walz going to be on 60 Minutes or one of these shows? You know, it's interesting. Who's going to have that one-on-one first? Is it going to be Walz? Is it going to be Ms. Harris? Which one? Because there's a lot of questions. Even Ms. Harris, we could ask, how do you feel about Biden? What really happened? And why did you lie? Well, I didn't lie. Well, the assumption of lying. And how do you feel that you were nominated by the American voters? Do you really feel that way? A lot of questions. It'll be interesting to see whose show and which one of these is going to be on these shows first.
Whoever gets first access to Tim Walz, I guarantee you they won't use that or do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, at best, at very best, he's clearly complicit in overrepresenting his military service. That's at very best, let alone was actively involved in the overrepresentation, which I think is increasingly clear that that was probably the case. And what's frustrating is that, I mean, God bless Tim Walz for serving his country. I didn't do it. I don't like criticizing people who did it over, the nitpicking, but this is more than nitpicking. This is really serious. And to the point that you made, Megan, a lot of vets are extremely sensitive about this issue, and for good reason. And they're so sensitive that they will immediately correct people who overrepresent the extent of their service. And I think that also partially explains why we are seeing people come out now to correct the record about Tim Walz, to offer the facts that the media has been, again, at best, slow to provide about the reality of Tim Walz's service, because people really are sensitive. A lot of people died in Iraq and Afghanistan, and it does make a very big difference in this case. And he's just not going to get away from these questions. One thing that also is, to Eliana's point, I think surprising and doesn't speak very well of the Harris campaign or that entire operation is that this has been bouncing around Minnesota for a while. I mean, Eliana may be a kid from the Twin Cities, but if you follow, I imagine, Eliana, you were already aware of this because people have known this about Tim Walz in Minnesota for years. This has been something that's been out there, and the Harris campaign doesn't appear to have been prepared to respond to it because they're even taking things off of their own website. Like, did they vet this guy, or did they just go off the vibes that Kamala Harris had with him at that Sunday meeting at the Naval Observatory? Because this is going to be a huge problem when you have veterans criticizing your vice presidential campaign from now to November. I mean, that's really, really tough stuff to work around.
What about it, Eliana? Because one of the things, it was Alpha News, which has been doing such a good job covering Tim Walz and Minnesota issues in general. They've been on the show. Liz, is it Liz Colis? Colin, forgive me, Colin. She's amazing, and I love her. And she did that great documentary on the Derek Chauvin case and verdict that we featured on the show. Well worth everybody's time. But she was one of the ones, she tweeted out that this was the headline that the Star Tribune ran with when this first broke in Minnesota about Tim Walz, or at least when it broke in 2022, it was resumed. The headline they went with was GOP opponent who never served criticizes Governor Tim Walz's exit from National Guard. Zero interest from all the journalism-y journalists.
So that is interesting. So the story, excuse me, has been around for a couple years, and excuse me, nobody really dealt with it, which is crazy. It really is. You're watching Midnight at the Oasis with yours truly, Anthony Parker Alexander. What did you think about that story? Is it a scathing story? Is it something that the media just should look into? We talked about this a bunch of times because it just doesn't make sense. And why isn't the media, like I said, covering it in its right way? Even to cover it and get it out the way, okay? They're letting the Democrats run how they want to. Some people say the media is too soft on Donald Trump. Donald Trump's taking questions for 70 minutes. Give me the questions, okay? Kamala Harris has only done it maybe 3 minutes. Going up an airplane, going down an airplane, going into a car, that's the best way to do it. Hey, Vice President, okay, gotta go. That's the best way to do it if you don't want to answer questions. But technically, if she doesn't answer questions, you've got the convention coming up, which they may ask questions. And then after that, the election's going to be coming up where you got a debate. So are people not going to know who their candidates are until the last minute? This is a crazy world we're living in. Media, do your job. Ask the questions. Speaking of asking the questions, I said we would give some comments about people that have commented on the show. And this is from Eddie. And here we go. And what you say and what you do is two different things. Knowing the truth and doing what's right is also two different things. Your idea of truth is nothing but spin. With speechwriters, you all would be lost. But until you do what is right, everything that you attempt shall fail. A vote for Joe Biden is a wasted vote. Knowing the truth and doing what's right is two different things. And even this had to be read, excuse me, from a teleprompter. It only proves one thing: he can't read. And that was about Joe Biden. Wow. So, next one we'll read after this is Blacks for Trump. You're watching Keeping It Honest. Yours truly, Anthony Parker Alexander. Sorry. This is Midnight at the Oasis. It's a product of Keeping It Honest with yours truly, Anthony Parker Alexander. Phone number is 216-702-3718, 216-702-3718. I'm working the boards now, reading the messages, about to put up this video. And this video, as I try to get it the correct way, is going to talk about the election and how close this election really is. Some people say listen to the polls. Some people say don't listen to the polls. But I want you to watch and really see maybe how close this election really is. This poll will show how the race has changed since Biden has dropped out. Has it been closer? It's been weirder. Let's check it out.
how has the vice president on the Democratic ticket changed the race in battleground states, or has it?
Some numbers in a moment, Anderson, but first let's just start with this. I have the map this way because we are now back in what we thought at the beginning of the year, before Biden's debate, before the questions about his age, that this would be the state of the race, right? 6 essentially battleground states. After that debate, remember, the Trump campaign was saying, we're going to put New Mexico in play. We're going to put Virginia in play. We're going to put New Hampshire in play. We're going to run away with this. That was the mood after the Biden-Trump debate. Well, Biden's gone. Harris is the candidate now. So at a minimum, we have reset the map to a traditional battleground state. But remember, after those last debates, it was Trump could win here, Trump could win here, and Trump could win here.
So I hope you can see this as we're trying to look. So on here, the red is Trump and the blue is Harris.
Only did the polls show that, and I'll bring them.
So right there, the red, it shows Trump's 279 and Harris is 226.
Up, Anderson, but we talked about that after all of my travels into those states. So let's just look a little May and now. Trump.
So May, 37%. And you look at this is interesting. Pennsylvania, Minnesota, and let me see.
Ahead in Pennsylvania, you're exactly right. This is no clear leader statistically within the margin of error, but Trump had momentum. This Michigan poll, New York Times, Siena, had Biden ahead slightly. I can tell you from my travels, Trump had momentum there as well. And Wisconsin, tighter, but Trump with momentum. The question is, don't believe any one poll. Which way is the arrow pointing? Who has the momentum? Well, look at this in August now.
So now we get to see if Harris has improved since Biden dropped out.
Harris up a little bit within the margin of error, but in Pennsylvania, up a little bit more in Michigan, up a little bit more in Wisconsin. So what does that mean? That means if the election were tomorrow and the energy and momentum you see out there right now played out, you would get that. And even if Harris.
And that says that Harris would win 270 to Trump's 235. So does she have that much energy left? So you see the yellow states. If you get the yellow states, if Trump gets those yellow states, there's 1, 2, I think 3, then he might have a chance. So if Harris kind of stays out of the news, doesn't answer the media, is getting a bump from the Democratic convention, Donald Trump has had all the bump he's going to get. I mean, like I said, he got shot. That took him as high as he's going to get. She comes in. This is taking her higher now, and she's got the convention. It's almost like you have a football game. And in that football game, would you rather be scoring points early and losing at the end, or starting out low and winning at the end? So that's where Harris is at now. Harris and Biden, they were slow. Trump was in the rise. Now Trump's not moving much, and Harris might be having the momentum. And this guy, John King, I love him because he loves working boards.
Harris lost Georgia, Nevada, and Arizona. She could get to 270 electoral votes. So those 3 states, the blue wall, make all the difference in the Democratic calculation. If she is strong in these, it opens up the possibilities across the Sun Belt.
John, let me just ask you, I mean, when polling says that, you know, that margin of error, though, in those states seemed really big, do those polls then matter? I mean, isn't it essentially still then a toss-up between them?
It is a very competitive race. We cannot say that enough. A very competitive race. And we lived through 2016. We lived through 2020. You should expect a very competitive race. Polling is you poll 800 or 1,000 people in a state. Some polls do 500 people. The statisticians run the margin of error. That shows no clear leader. We're especially cautious here at CNN how we characterize polling. So this is how I do it. Do not believe any one poll. Any one poll is a snapshot. But when you see a bunch of polling, which way, right? Does somebody have clear momentum? Is it a straight line or is it going like this? Right now, in the spring, when I was coming back from those travels, it was going that way for Donald Trump. Right now, it's all Harris everywhere.
One significant change regarding polling is the gender gap, right?
Absolutely. So there's a whole number of things we could break down. But, you know, Randy Kay for your program is doing a great series on the 53%, right? The 53. Why? Women are 53% of the population, the voting population, roughly. So if you want to get votes, why don't you go to the big buckets of votes, right? If you can get more women to vote for you, they're a larger slice of the electorate. Look at this. May 2024, again, the battleground polls by New York Times, Siena. Trump and Biden, Trump ahead by 14 points there among men, running roughly even among women. Now look at this. Harris up 20 points, about the same margin among men. Trump's still winning among men. But look at this. So you're talking now about Harris's vote in the cities has come up. Harris's vote in the suburbs has come up. You have a woman candidate, a woman of color at the top of the ticket. At the moment, it is making a very big difference in the change in the race.
So do you believe
Good morning,
what you
everybody.
see?
We are here to discuss the
Do you believe what you see? Do you believe in polls? So many polls. If you remember, Joe Biden said he didn't believe in polls. Trump kind of does. We're leading at so-and-so polls. You see those polls right there. Demographics again. Break it down. VP Harris. She's going to get the black sorority votes, the women vote. I don't know about the black men vote, though. She's going to get some of the white women, the soccer moms, the women that don't like Trump. She's going to get the white men. They've already gone and got white men for Harris, white women for Harris. Is she going to get the young vote? Well, she's getting the sorority women. And she'll probably get the young 18-year-olds. She will get the black vote. When Obama ran, he got like 99%, something like that. And maybe Biden got maybe 80, something like that. Donald Trump, when he ran 2016, I think he got like 10% of the vote. Now he's getting like maybe 20. It's going to be too tough to tell. You've got Rice. Maybe he was getting the military vote, or was it J.D. Vance getting the military vote? And I can tell you from going door to door and people on my phone, most people who respond are Republicans. J.D. Vance, Army guy or military guy. Tim Weiss, military guy. Which one's more questionable? We're going to talk about J.D. Vance's military experience. A lot of people don't know. He talks about him being in the military, but I don't really hear what he said, what he did. So we're going to talk about that. So stay tuned for that on the show. What do you think so far? How is this election going to be? Is it neck and neck? Time will tell. And we're going to go to our last comment. And this is an interesting one. I played a clip called Blacks for Trump. And this is by Walker's Way. This is a comment. This is full of lies. This is either by Trump, MTG, I don't know what MTG is, let me know, or her, one of their sad and desperate MAGA supporters. Play the entire report of the Honorable Jasmine Crockett. So remember that, Jasmine Crockett. It utterly goes without saying that Congresswoman Crockett is by far never going to give Trump any props. So, Walker's Way, I guess you're not a fan of Congresswoman Crockett, but you must love Donald Trump. Wow. So we have other interesting comments throughout the shows. We're going to be giving those. So keep commenting on the videos, good and bad. And I thank you for supporting them. And I hope you enjoyed the show. Another in-depth kind of show. We weren't trying to make these Midnight at the Oasis in-depth, but they're kind of like special report shows. So on there, we talked about not J.D. Vance. We talked about Wiles. We talked about him and his military background. You have any questions? Rewatch this show. Look up the information that they talked about. Thank you for Megan Kelly for letting us piggyback. And if you don't believe her, you don't believe me, believe yourself. Look it up, internet, read a book, newspaper. Check it out for yourself. Let me know how you feel. Let me know if this has changed your views on being a Republican or Democrat. And it was interesting. I did a video. And person got in contact with me and they were like, pretty much, I'm going another political party now because of what I saw. And I felt bad at first. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't mean to do that. But I gave them the truth and they decided to go with that and change. And maybe they investigated it too. But yeah, contact me. So many ways. Phone number 216-702-3718, 216-702-3718. Email address parkerman2011 at gmail.com, parkerman2011 at gmail.com. Get on my Patreon page, 3 levels where you can contribute. I thank you guys. We're growing. Let's just keep on growing. I feel like a politician. Let's just grow. Let's just grow. Let's just grow. So take that, all you political people with all your sayings. On this channel, let's just grow. As I grow, you grow. We're all one. We're part of the same family. I thank you. So we're going to be doing this again, same time, same channel. Hit the like button, hit the share button, hit the subscribe button. You want to be a guest on my show? Also contact me, and boom, I'll have you in another square, and we can talk about anything and everything. I love you guys communicating to me on this. I read them through the phone. Phone's amazing. Keep on keeping on. So in closing, keep your head up, never look down, always believe in yourself, and therein will lie your answer. I will see you again, and you are watching Midnight at the Oasis. I'm Anthony Parker, and of course, God bless.